Well, it's about that time again. Time for another Dad Talk with Rev. We're a few weeks into tier, and we're starting to see some good prog, and we're starting to receive a few messages from different people about things like loot giving out, things like who gets into raid, who gets prog, who doesn't, things like that. This is not sort of directed towards any particular person. If it was, I would just message that person and say what I need to say to them. However, what we wanted to do is just, I guess, remind everyone of what we're doing and where we're going. So firstly, you need to understand our aim. Our aim is cutting edge while having fun. So cutting edge while having an enjoyable environment where we're not dealing with toxic or irritating people. And so we want to turn up, we want to enjoy ourselves. But the aim is cutting edge. And because the aim is cutting edge, that's going to heavily influence the decisions we as a officer team make. So it's going to impact the way we give out loot, it's going to impact the way we pick teams for specific bosses and who gets to come into different nights. And all of that is sort of governed by two key principles which kind of undergird any team atmosphere, but particularly when it comes to WoW raiding. That first principle is that your personal gain is subservient, is less important than the overall gain of the raid. So when a piece of loot drops, you may look at it and think to yourself, well, this is a huge gain for my character. Whether you're a tank, whether you're a healer, whether you're a DPS makes no difference. You think to yourself, well, that's a 2% increase for my character. Our overall concern is not what is the particular best increase for one specific person in the raid. Our overall thinking, because we're aiming for cutting edge, our overall thinking is what is best for the team as a whole. What is going to yield the raid team, if you think about it like one body, what is going to make this one body perform better? This is why, for example, I as a tank have taken no mythic loot yet. Well, you might say, actually, Rev, you took one trinket. Yes, a Garbo tank trinket that no one wanted. All of my gear has come from Vault, has come from Heroic runs, has come from Mythic Plus. And Darbs has much the same thing. Because the overall percentage gain of me taking an item as a tank versus a DPS taking an item is quite different. And the raid DPS and increase overall is going to be far greater if I give that item to a DPS versus to me. So, core principle number one, overall raid team increase is the fundamental guiding principle for the decisions we make about loot and also about raid squad. As we're thinking about who gets in for the kills for having bonuses, item options in their vault, as we think about who's in for which prog boss, we're not thinking purely, well, what's fair and who hasn't had a chance. That does come into our thinking, but the core overriding principle is what's going to enable the team to function in the best way to press us forward towards our goal of having cutting edge. So that's our first key principle that undergirds our decision making. The second key principle that you have to understand is that though individual power gain is not our primary drive, individual effort is what will cause the greatest success for the raid team. So as it comes to loot and power and people in the raid, we think about a whole. But when it comes to the team's success, we will only ever be as strong and as successful as our weakest players and the effort they put in. So what do I mean by that? Well, if 7 of our players don't bother checking out boss fights and they don't worry about thinking about what's the best build for their character coming in for the latest boss, well, 13 of our players are going to do very well, but 7 of our players are going to do very bad, which means the individual effort of those 7 players is going to tear down the whole team. So it's not about their power gain as much as it is the effort they put in to knowing what they're doing and striving to do their best. Which means It's up to every single person on the team, whether they have picked up extra loot or not, whether they've been in for all the raid kills or the boss fights or not. It's up to every individual to contribute the absolute best they can. That means researching boss fights, researching best builds, doing Mythic Plus, turning up on time, being ready to raid. That is the greatest contribution that you can bring to our raid team. And so people will often think, oh yeah, but if only I had better gear, then I'd be able to contribute more. It's a fallacy. Sure, if you have better gear, you're theoretically going to do better numbers. However, no amount of gear is going to make up for a bad player or a bad attitude or someone who's not prepared. The best thing you can do is ignore what fights you're in for, ignore what loot you've gotten or want to get, and strive to be on time, contribute the most you can, be prepared in every way, and master and understand your class. Because if you do those things, you will perform extremely well every time, and you will be doing your part for the raid team as a whole. And when you do that, you'll be surprised at how much better DPS you do, even though you haven't got the gear you need. Or the better healing you do, even though you haven't got the things you need. The less times you die, because you understand the fight better. So let me encourage you. Firstly, raid team as a whole and its increase is first and foremost in our mind, not me as an individual player. And secondly, our raid team will only succeed in accordance with how much effort I put in as an individual. So let's get it done.